Hello and welcome to the Claret and Blue podcast, live at 1 p.m. on Friday, the 8th of August. This episode will also go out on the Spotify feed afterwards, but do bear in mind this was a live episode, so any of us fluffing our lines or some dead air will just be left in because we like to leave that live element. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, joined by John Townley. John, how's things, buddy? Buddy?
Good.
Oh, what was that for? How's things, mate?
Yeah, I don't think you've ever said buddy before.
No.
Yeah, good, thank you. A week, nearly a week before the season starts again. A week before I'm in front of Unai again, asking him questions in the press conference. So looking forward to that as well. I feel like we're there now. Now the championship's kicking off tonight. Yeah. If do you not know? Or are you joking?
I don't care. I know
Genuinely, do you not know?
No, I do know it is. I just don't care.
Okay. Yeah, new campaign is upon us. So yeah, I'm excited, mate.
Yeah, good. Thanks, buddy. If this wasn't live, I would have started again at the cringe of that, but here we are. We're here to do a live Q&A, so get involved in the comments. We've got a couple of talking points to kick us off while people start tuning in, but far away, you can kind of ask us pretty much whatever you like. The questions will pop up on screen, and any other comments, please keep it clean for those that are watching. This is a family show after all, isn't it, John? Right, let's do a couple of mailbag ones then to begin. First of all, from No Name, said, this should be called the Olaf mailbag. That's good, isn't it? Should we change it?
Yeah, definitely change it. Yeah, I like that.
Maybe internally we'll just call it the mailbag, like we call the DJI Gizmo a Leon Osman, which makes sense to nobody out there.
Yeah, that's not going to make sense to anyone.
Good. George in the comments says, George, doesn't say George. Oh, mate, I'm all over the place. That buddy is really throwing me off, genuinely. Seen lots of discrepancy over the reported fee for Guessand. Any idea which is correct, buddies? Do you want to go for it, John?
Yeah, what I was told it was all in was £30 million, 35 million euros.
That includes the
add-ons. I'm not totally sure what they're paying up front, because in any deal that is done is always obviously partially in stages, right? So yeah, I always prefer just to kind of call it what it would be all in, and as far as I'm aware, that's £30 million.
Yeah, so often when we talk about add-ons, some of those things might be, and it's unlikely, but specifically for the sake of this, if Villa win the Premier League, we'll pay you another £1 million, for example. So that figure may never get hit because some of those add-ons would never be met, right?
Yeah, it depends what they are. Like, for example, when we signed Morgan Rogers for £8 million, rising to 15, some of those add-ons, no one was expecting those to be paid.
Yeah, like if you become an England international, we'll pay you something, and then that happened. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so they were kind of viewed as long-term targets, and actually, they were met, or some of them were met very quickly.
As we do this live, we have to pick a title for the show. Obviously, we don't know what we're going to talk about for a live stream. So I picked out a couple of questions, which we'll start with those. The first part is just Guessand signs. That's now official. We've obviously covered it. You and I did our live reaction to it on Wednesday. On Thursday, we got a tactical expert on, Alex Barker from The Athletic. That was a really good episode and really popular, and I had a lot of nice feedback about that. But if you missed it and you're wondering what's his style of play, what are his pros and cons and that kind of thing, that episode will kind of bring you right up to speed. But it's now officially confirmed. Does it change any of our feelings? I mean, I saw the interview that he did, and I never even really thought about it, but speaks good English, which is always helpful and useful. Yep. But said good things as well, which I know is a little bit of a cliche, but seemed like, I'm a young player. I've come to a coach that is going to help me and help me become better, and that's what I do. That's what I want to focus on.
Yeah, I like that he mentioned that, as you said there, Danny wants to improve, and although that's like an obvious thing, clearly he's come to Villa, and that is a main part of his decision to join. He's not joining Villa simply for, and I know he wouldn't say this, but he's not joining Villa just for money. He had a massive offer from a Saudi Pro League team and turned that down. He was born in 2001, which makes me feel old. I was born in 2000, so he's younger than me, which wow. When I look at players, I mean, I'm 25, which makes me essentially like middle-aged for a footballer, if I was a footballer.
I'm getting over the hill almost.
I know, it's crazy. We call footballers like old when they hit 28. They're nearly 30. And yeah, but Guessand isn't that. He's only just turned 24, so has many years ahead of him, and has joined Villa for different reasons. But one of the big ones is that he's working with Unai Emery, and a manager who, when he was at PSG, Guessand would have been just coming through the ranks really at Nice, and so for him, he would have always seen Emery as a manager who wins things and has big pedigree. So when he's picking up the phone and talking to him, and Emery's giving him exactly, and we all know that this is how it works with Emery. He talks for hours on the phone to prospective targets as such. We want to bring you in for these reasons, and here's how you're going to play, and here's how I can improve you. It's very rare that players will turn Emery down. I think one of the only players that I can think off the top of my head would be Nico Williams, but that was for different reasons. I think we all were aware that he was, or he still is, like a talent who could play for pretty much any team in the world. So yeah, where Villa are at the moment, I think kind of going back onto that episode that we spoke about, I think in the kind of caliber of players that we could get for the price we can pay, I think this lad is probably one of the best options that we could have brought in, especially because it's such a good tactical fit as well.
Yeah, I had a message off our Newcastle colleague Andrew Musgrove, and Newcastle are floundering around in this transfer window. And we often say you can't win the transfer window, but you can certainly kind of almost lose it, and lost some players, not really signed anybody of any note.
Yeah.
And he kind of said this signing is the kind of signing they would like Newcastle to make, not the Embuemos for 60, 70 that feel a little bit overpriced. This kind of rung below that is 25 to 30 now, but potentially 50 to 60 in a couple of good seasons, and it's an underutilized market almost. This kind of figure. So,
can we quickly touch on
Newcastle is good?
Yeah, I want to quickly touch on that as well, because Villa throughout the whole summer, and we were very adamant on this podcast. Having spoken to people within the club and different sources, this is their plan. They want to keep hold of their key players. New players will arrive. We know that there's going to have to be a bit of player trading, as is the case for most clubs, right? But the structure that Villa have is something that I don't think you can kind of overlook here. Like, look at Newcastle, and it's kind of two contrasting points here. But Villa's structure is very set. The football department there, Emery, Damian, and Monchi, and everyone else is working very, very hard behind the scenes. Contrast that to Newcastle, who I don't even think have a sporting director.
It's Eddie Howe's nephew or something, or is that like a joke?
I don't know. Possibly, it may as well be Eddie Howe's dog and cat. Like that's how they're working with it. And
maybe Anton Deck could do it.
If you look at yeah, possibly, who's your next Messiah? Like how they're doing it compared to how Villa do it, it really is night and day. And I don't know, there must be different reasons why they don't have a sporting director and they keep leaving, because they've had quite a few, haven't they? But it just goes to show that we're very strong, at least in our football department. The business side has obviously changed now with Calvo coming in, and he has a massive job to do, by the way, to get that revenue up. But it just goes to show that it's not the be-all and end-all if you don't sign players for X amount of money and they're not coming in quickly and all these different things. Again, Villa want to spend money. Yeah, Villa want to spend money. They can't spend money, else we get points deduction. So that's that bit. But the second part is that we're going to try and do everything we possibly can to improve the squad. And we have the right people in the right places to do that when we are able to and when we find the right players. Look at Newcastle. They've got the Champions League. They've won the trophy. It's kind of... the trophy part is, that's ended 70 years of a drought for them. So that's fine.
For the fans,
but
more so than anything.
To get into the Champions League, again, you can have great nights, but you're not ready for that, because you don't have the capacity to bring in the players that you want to. And even someone like a Guessand or whoever else, they would look at Newcastle and Villa, I'm sure, and think, well, Newcastle have the Champions League, but what am I actually joining there? Am I joining a club who's ready to consistently compete? Possibly. But on Villa's side, it just feels like we are set. And I know it's kind of, this all depends on Emery. As soon as he leaves, what happens? But that's for way
forget
down.
about that for now.
yeah. But how we're set up at the moment, at least, and I think we will be in the future anyway, because of Suarez's backing and ambition. But we're well set up to continually compete, and it feels really strong. And it's very clear what we're trying to do. The fact that we haven't lost, the fact that Kamara hasn't said, "No, I want to go. Actually, I want to join the Champions League team now." Same for Rodgers, same for Watkins, same for all these different players. They're all happy to stay. And that's a team who has gone far in the Champions League. And then they've all thought, okay, but we'll give it another chance next season without the Champions League. I feel like that's something that a lot of other clubs wouldn't have the luxury of, having that. So, I think there's a lot to say between the contrast between Newcastle and Villa at the moment. And we've seen that the amount of players who've been rejecting Newcastle and, again, contrast that with what Villa have done.
Yeah, spoiler alert, we're doing our season preview next week. All of our content next week will be about building up to the first game of the season, which incidentally is Newcastle. If the window changes, granted, things can change. right now, I'd be backing Villa to finish above Newcastle in the league.
Yeah, no, so would I. Yeah, I'd be doing that before the season started. To be perfectly honest,
I'm not suggesting we're going to finish 4th and they'll be 10th. Like it might be 6th and 7th, but I'd put us above Newcastle now.
If you watched the previous podcast we did probably like a couple of weeks ago, I said straight away, sell Isaac, bring in the money. You have to do that. Bring in the money. You have to have squad depth. Newcastle don't have that. We do, and yes, that can change. Again, there's going to have to be some player trading. But you'd like to think that come the end of the window, we're still going to be in a position where we have 2 players per position. So if you have injuries, you have players who can be versatile and cover different roles and operate in different positions. That's what got us so close to getting to the Champions League again last season. And when we won 8 out of 10 games, or whatever it was at the back end, and finished in the last 8 of the Champions League, should have gone even further in the FA Cup and probably got to the final if we actually showed up.
Yeah.
At Wembley, that was all in our favour because of the squad depth that we had, and then that reduces the chance of injuries, increases the chance of being able to compete for 90 minutes. That's exactly what Newcastle didn't have a couple of years ago when they had the Champions League. So, yeah, right now, if you ask me, I would say Villa finish with Newcastle, but that's now, and there's still a long way for the window to go, and they've still got money to play with. They should increase their squad depth in Newcastle. But put it this way, I look at the league table and like we did a few weeks ago, I think there's definitely 4 teams that probably will finish above Villa or will feel confident to finish above Villa. Apart from that, if you're looking at Tottenham, Man United and Newcastle, you can't tell me that we're worse than them, especially because they have Champions League. Tottenham and Newcastle, Man United, you just don't know what you're going to get. But I'm not sitting here thinking, Charlie Nicholas, that we're kind of, I don't know, a step below them now, and then maybe we're competing with all respect, like Brighton, Forest, that kind of level of teams. I'd like to think that there's still a gap between us and them. So that's why I'm confident next season get Europe again. But can you push once more and try and get into that top 5 if that's a thing? I'm confident we'll be able to do that.
There's an interesting question here from Gaming and Stuff. I don't know whether you'll know the answer to this, but I'll raise it anyway. It's been reported elsewhere that Guessand was heavily pushed for by Vidigani. What does that actually mean? Is that Damian is having to work to convince Unai Emery, or is it just that he had to convince the owners to spend the money? Do you know how that kind of power dynamic works?
Yeah, I mean, I think someone maybe mentioned that kind of I think it was Florian Plettenberg, maybe the German reporter, I think mentioned it. Damian's involved in everything that we do. He's a crucial cog between Emery and Monchi. Between all 3 of them, they all have really important roles. I'm not going to go into specifics, but it's not a situation where Damian's thought, okay, I want to sign this player. Can we sign him, guys? And then they've all come together and thought, oh yeah, probably. No, like they have a long list of players per position. They will do their due diligence on each one. Can we afford them? What does Unai actually really want here? Unai will speak to the player, convince him. Damian and Monchi, broker the deal. It's not one of them that just pushes ahead with the signing that they'd like, and then it kind of falls into an email somewhere. By the way, guys, got a bit accepted for him. Like, it's obviously a collective, and they all play really important roles. And again, this is kind of my point. Contrast that to Newcastle. Newcastle really don't have that basis. So even if a player wanted to join a few weeks ago to go to Newcastle, even they may now be thinking, well, kind of how does that look if you're being presented with Villa and Newcastle? One has the Champions League, one doesn't, right? But one of them has, in-depth, however long conversations with Unai about this is exactly what we want you to do in this team and how you will improve. And Monchi and Damian are doing their work. But with Newcastle, I just don't see how it works. And how would that convince you, knowing that they don't have that structure in place and their owners are essentially buying players from opposition teams as well and giving them millions and millions of pounds. They've given us 100 and something million pounds from Diaby and Duran. Liverpool, lots of money as well. These are all Newcastle competitors. So I really struggle to see what is going on in the Newcastle project. But I know this has been kind of Newcastle heavy at the moment, but I'm just trying to contrast because a lot has been said about Villa's window and where we're going. I really don't think it's that bad.
No, I don't. This is why I've been pretty relaxed all the way through the season, and not as we know more than everybody else. But how often have we done a Q&A like this, and the question is there a chance Villa don't sign anybody? No, we spent 30 million on a promising young footballer to come in and strengthen our forward line. It was never, to me, a possibility that Villa wouldn't sign anybody, even if we're depending on the loan market or a desperate free agent on deadline day. Like, somebody will come in to help us out of what is already a good squad, and I don't foresee this being the last of Villa's business either. Just something we need to address because it's in the title. Again, if I'd have known what we were going to talk about, maybe they wouldn't be. But Ramsey's future, let's discuss that a little bit. This was a question from the mailbag. Lads, we really need to keep Ramsey. A fit and firing Jacob Ramsey is just as good as one-season wonders Gibbs, White and Alanga. I watched a compilation on Monday Night Football on Villa, and his pace and power was unbelievable. People forget very easily. Now, I think the last part is certainly true. It is easy to forget sometimes what these players are like week in, week out. When you don't watch them week in, week out, when they have spells out of the team, you do forget a little bit. It's a difficult one. I mean, this has been very Newcastle heavy, and they've been linked with signing Ramsey as well at various points over the last few months. West Ham also supposedly interested. In a perfect world, I would like to keep him. I think if he's fit and firing, he probably does start on the left, I think, at the moment for Villa. Ramsey, Rodgers, Guessand. He's probably your three behind Watkins at the moment. Maybe Marlon in there somewhere. Oh, John's got a look of disagreement on his face.
It's just because whenever we do this, we always leave McGinn out, and then it always.
No. We'll talk about McGinn in a little bit. I'm certain about Everton and whatnot. But as Marine Boy there says, perfect timing. Keeping Ramsey fit is an impossible task, and it has been a problem that he's struggled with. So. It's my F1 analogy from last season. The biggest thing is, can you finish the race? That's how you're going to get points. Doesn't matter if you're the fastest car, if it keeps breaking down. Jacob Ramsey could be a brilliant player, but if he's not fit to play 50 games a season, which is what Villa need, it's a problem.
I think a lot of it is confidence with Ramsey, and I say that in terms of staying fit and also performing on the pitch and scoring more than once in a Premier League season. I think it's all confidence. I think he has so much ability, and we saw it when Unai Emery first came in, and he had such an influence for us to get into the European places. And then he obviously had his problems with his metatarsal, and since then I've really wanted to believe that he would get back to the level that he showed at the back end of that campaign. He showed it in sparks last season, but it wasn't enough. I'm absolutely willing to give him another chance. But as I keep saying, this is a player who has less than 2 years on the deal now. So we're at a crossroads. I think he needs to, put it this way, if he stays at Villa, I think he has to have a really good start to the season. Because all of a sudden, we need depth, right? That's one point. But secondly, we can't carry players just to get them back into fitness or confidence or whatever it may be. Yeah. However, what I would say is that I have been impressed by what I've seen in pre-season, though. I think it's good that obviously he's scored twice now. 2 well-taken goals, two different goals. First one was a really nice finish from the edge of the box against Hansa Rostock, and then the second one, nice combination play with Tielemans. And you can talk about everything. Tielemans' pass was outrageous, and you kind of come to expect that sort of thing. But also, the movement from Ramsey. If that's not a confident Ramsey, he probably stays static in his position and he doesn't make that run in behind. It's a nice give and go, right? And then he finishes it well. That's what Ramsey's all about. So I'm hoping that he can start the season well, and then we keep him and he becomes the player that we want him to, because he's an England international waiting to happen. You need to see it to believe it with him now. It's a really important campaign for him at Villa. Again, if he stays, if a big bid comes in from Forest or from Newcastle, Tottenham, now that they've lost Maddison, we'll have to wait and see. But that will, test Villa's resolve, I'm sure. It's not a situation where Ramsey is now unsellable like he was a year ago, because again, a year has gone down the line and it's going to be the same next year as well. Villa will always think, well, what players can we let go that we think we can either replace or move on from and take the money. Ramsey will fall in that bracket as long as the money is good. But at the same time, Emery, he loves the player, and I think we all do as well. We all want to see Ramsey get back to that level, so I'm really hoping that he manages to do that. The only last thing I would say on it as well, if he was to go, I think we're then very short on that left side, because we've got options like McGinn, Rodgers, Guessand, Marlon, possibly Bailey, possibly Buendia. But on that left, apart from Rodgers, and I know McGinn can do that as well, I think you need something else there, because if you take Ramsey away, that's a player who...
That's a left wing?
No, well, this is it. He essentially plays left wing, right?
I mean, that's what, if Ramsey was injured now and you wanted an actual wide player who's going to hug the width on that side, would be Dean left back and Matt further forward.
Yeah, possibly.
Which isn't ideal. So, I mean, it's not ideal, is it? So if you were to sell Watkins, sell Watkins. If you were to sell Ramsey to Newcastle for 50 million this window, because they've got the Isaac money to splash, can you find another 25 to 35 million Guessand style signing to play left wing? Because you absolutely need somebody.
Yeah, and the way that we play, I think if he's should we say, a traditional winger, I think he would get stuck with Maatsen a little bit, or Dean, because they're occupying the same spaces. I think he needs someone like a Ramsey or Rodgers, or dare I say, at least the profile of a Jack Grealish, where they would cut inside from the left and cause problems from there. I think that's exactly what he wants. So the profile of Ramsey is absolutely perfect in our system. He just needs confidence to, essentially improve his game.
Yeah, Mark there's just said Maatsen left wing as well. I mean that would be the option, but it's far from ideal as we've just discussed. Okay, that's enough on Ramsey for now. Cat Cannon mentions John McGinn, who said, "Is McGinn really worth 18 million?" Now this has been quite divisive, actually. Surprisingly so, I think. Yeah. So whether this bid is true or not, I saw something this morning. I don't know what the source was, that Everton actually hadn't put a bid for him, but the talk was an 18 million bid for McGinn. We've spoken before about like not quite understanding or being able to put a figure on John McGinn, because we think he's really valuable to Villa, and he absolutely is for loads of reasons that we don't need to go into now. But what would some other club actually pay for him?
Yeah.
Harry says there he's worth 10 times more than that to us. I agree. Like he's invaluable almost, McGinn. But I don't know what someone else offers for him. So when that came through, that supposedly 18 million bid, the reaction mostly was no chance. Like he's our captain and played 40 odd games last season. He'd be worth way more than that. But would Everton or anybody else really pay 30 million for a 30-year-old with 2 years left? Like he's a good player, but I don't know whether people would see him as that level. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not suggesting 80 million is acceptable, but it's weird to place what that figure would be.
Yeah, but that's it. That's exactly.
I only see him going to Celtic for like 4 million or something. Like I don't see any other transfer ever happening. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is kind of my point with Ollie Watkins as well. What's the price that you would sell them for that you'd be happy to? But like with McGinn, as you say there,
McGinn with an 18 million pound player,
a 30-year-old midfielder, so someone who's going to turn 31 who's a midfielder with less than 2 years on the contract, that is, I don't know, 25 million potentially.
Someone that doesn't score goals as well. Like it's not loads of like qualities that you go, okay, well at least he's going to bring us 8 to 10 Premier League goals a season as well.
Yeah,
I'd say about 20 to 25 is what somebody would actually pay. I think he's worth more than that, but everyone be like 18, no chance. Well, theoretically, like another 5 or 6 might actually do it for what somebody wants to pay.
Yeah, but for what someone wants to pay. But then for Villa, if someone offered 25 for me again, I'd just say like, no, definitely not, because you can't replace him. You can't. He's not only one. Well, I say he's the captain. He's one of the captains in the leadership group, and we spoke about him a lot. So I'm not going to kind of keep going into it. But it's a player that you just can't take out your team and replace for any money. To be perfectly honest, you can maybe. Or you would be able to maybe replace what he brings on the pitch, like in a different way, because firstly, he's very unique in his profile.
Yeah.
But in terms of what he brings in the dressing room or what you would lose there, it's I wouldn't say it's priceless, but it's not worth making £20 million over. So while I understand the first point about McGinn's worth in the market would be, I don't know, give or take 20-something million pounds, but what would Villa sell him for? Completely different story. And it's always the case, right, of when you see some I don't know, commercial Big Six clubs fans who would say they want 60 million for this player, that's a joke. And it's like, well, yeah, that's how business works. What we're not going to undersell him just because you want him. It's not how it works. So again, that's kind of my point with Ollie Watkins. Why would you sell Ollie Watkins for, I don't know, 30-35 million pounds just because his contract's going down? You can't buy a better player than Ollie Watkins in this position for that. You can't buy a striker who's going to get you 15 to 20 goals for less than possibly 60 million pounds. And even then, if you look at what Rasmus Højlund costs, and even though the strikers as well cost 70 million quid or thereabouts, it's not something that I would be entertaining.
No, absolutely not. McGinn won't leave this window. He'll leave,
and he doesn't want to. Like when we had a chat with him.
No.
When we had a chat with him, or I had a chat with him last week, he essentially hinted saying that he wants to stay, and it's up to the club to either kind of make him see out that contract or give him a new deal as well. So he's more than happy where he is now. He's very settled.
Yeah, I think when you talk about players playing to a high level, like he's super fit and everything currently, obviously a lot of talk ages ago when he first came over from Scotland of chips and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not suggesting he was out of fitness, but you know what I mean, like that kind of character. Now he takes things very seriously for obvious reasons. He's what? Is he 30 now or 31?
30 now. Pretty
30
certain.
now. So let's say you could play at the top level in the Premier League for another 3 or 4 seasons, right? So that takes him up to 34. His current contract is 2 years. So I wouldn't be completely surprised if McGinn gets a new contract of 3 or 4 years, sees that out, and then goes to Celtic at 34. And he could still have probably 2 seasons at Celtic and retire at 36, 37. So his kind of trajectory of Villa is not done yet. And that would see him get to 10 years, just over 10 years potentially.
Yeah,
this is 2018, was it?
Yeah, so he's 7 years in with Villa now. Next season will be his 8th campaign.
Yeah. So to get to like double-digit seasons or double-digit years is unlikely in the modern game. So, and I'd like to think during that period as well of another 2 or 3 seasons we win something as well, and that kind of absolutely marks off his send off to Celtic. So, yes, that's enough on McGinn. I think let's go to some other questions or comments. Tony says Watkins is still odds on with the bookies to stay. Do you think he will? I was never in doubt that he would go. Were you?
I think it'd be a mental decision to sell Ollie Watkins, especially this late in the window.
Is that Newcastle sell Isaac and say Villa, we're desperate. Here's 70 million. Is there a cut-off point where you say, oh, okay, actually?
Yeah, like it's hypothetical, that sort of thing, though, isn't it? Like no one's going to be paying that sort of money for Watkins. So I get what you're saying, Dan, but I can't entertain it. Obviously, if someone bids £85 million, then even then your head might turn, of course. Even at that point, all right, well, who are you bringing in then? You tell me what striker you're going to bring in for that amount of money that wouldn't want to play in the Champions League. Like right now, Newcastle are apparently going after. Newcastle apparently may go after this Samu from Porto, which is like, okay. Like everyone's seen his compilations on Twitter, but they're just going down a long list of strikers now. They've gone through essentially everyone that is at that level. Sesko, Watkins, I don't know, anyone else. Samu, Ekatike, yeah, you throw Samu in there as well. So that's the level that Villa would have to look at to sell.
How many more is there after that?
Watkins. There isn't. That's my point. So just keep the player who's going to get you at least 15 goals next season and possibly double digits in assists as well. It's not worth selling him in my opinion.
No, I completely agree. Here's an interesting one from Stephen. First time catching you live. Keep up the good work. Where do we stand on Emi Martinez? Do you still think he's going? Now, we were I know everybody was, to be fair, like the tears at Tottenham. He's a big earner. Everything out there was, well, he may be the SCR sacrifice. He's on a big wage. There is a goalkeeper desire, maybe at other clubs. Man United obviously want a new one. Chelsea, I would argue, want a new one. But for that specific position where you've only got one player that can be that level, someone has to move elsewhere. And Arna's still at Man United and so on and so forth. So there isn't really a window for Martinez to move to now anyway, as it stands. But I think we're now at the point where it probably is more likely that he's going to stay, again, for the reasons you've just discussed about Watkins. To lose him now, the season starts next weekend and the window shuts 2 after that. If this was going to happen, it surely had to happen earlier than this.
Yeah, and again, flip it to the point that I mentioned about Watkins. Who would you bring in to replace Martinez? I think the guy that you'd really want is going to PSG now. So for different reasons, it would look more likely now that Martinez is going to be staying. It's the transfer window; things can change at the drop.
Which, from a footballing perspective, is a brilliant thing, by the way. Like we all wanted to keep the footballer. We all just understood the ramifications of the salary and the wages and the potential transfer fee. That it could be a good thing for Villa to do that deal July 10th or something. A month on from that, where he's still here and he's featuring in pre-season, and there hasn't been any kind of solid interest from another club. Leads you to, well, now that deal couldn't be done. The financial ramifications will have to be sorted somewhere else.
Yeah, I think, put it this way, I think earlier in the summer, if there was a reasonable offer that was made for Martinez, the likelihood is that he would have been gone. But that hasn't happened. I think the closest we've come is Man United bidding on a loan, which isn't close, right? That's just ridiculous. I still think there must be another side to that story that didn't come out. I haven't found it out, but just to bid for Martinez on loan is bonkers. Surprised Newcastle haven't done that, or Eddie Howe's cousin, as you say. But yeah, you're right. if you look at Martinez's options, there's very few. They're quite limited. Man United appear to be looking elsewhere to spend their money. They've obviously bought in a lot of forwards. They're looking at someone like Baleba as well.
Yes.
Baleba from Brighton, it would cost loads of money. So clearly they're allocating funds elsewhere, which I think is a bit crazy because they do need a goalkeeper. They don't really have one that's any good at the moment. So surprised they haven't come in for Martinez. I think Martinez at the end of the season / earlier in the summer was probably expecting to leave. But as you say, the offers just haven't came for him. So where I'd look at it now is if in 12 months, what happens with Martinez then, he'd be closing in on his 34th birthday, I think. At that point, I see little value in him in the market, if that makes sense. I think Villa are looking at the moment for give or take around, or have been looking for around £40 million this summer. But the next summer, that I think would like nearly half, I think, to be honest, in terms of a value. So again, kind of like on McGinn and Watkins' point of, well, if you don't need to sell him, just don't. But knowing what Martinez and his feelings have been this summer, I don't put it this way, I don't think he'll see out his career at Villa, put it that way. But will he go this summer now in the last, I don't know, 4 weeks, three and a bit weeks, 4 weeks of the window? That would fully depend on what club makes a reasonable offer to Villa for him. And so far, that simply hasn't happened. So if that changes, we'll see. If it doesn't, Martinez stays.
Yeah. A couple here from Recruit. What players are you most excited about this season is something we'll discuss on next week's preview content. And kind of to the same point, but we'll discuss it here quickly from Stephen. 20 goals and assists for Marlon this season is my bet.
Combined.
I assume the 20 goals and 20 assists will be excellent. But yeah, that kind of stuff is what we'll do next season, our predictions for goal scorers and assists and all those kind of things. But I think the general vibe about Marlon is feels like a new signing, didn't feature too much last year, surely has to play more this season and will. And most people are excited about what he's got.
Yeah, we've spoken about Marlon quite a lot, so I'm going to kind of turn it a little bit. And I did a piece earlier, just a quick line, basically just saying that Guessand and Marlon, only one of them is a new signing, right? But they feel like two new signings, and the outlay of them both is, I don't know, £50 million, right? Which doesn't, to me, feel like a lot of money for two players who are both capable of, as the question said, getting double digits each in goals and assists. And if you look at where Villa were in the goal scoring charts last season, they were the lowest scorers in the top half of the Premier League last season, which isn't good enough for a team who wants to finish 4th or 5th and compete around those positions. That's 18 goals less than 23-24. So it's a big difference from the previous campaign from last season. That needs to improve, and Emery spoke about it in America. He was talking to me about how goals need to be shared out more, because you're seeing Morgan Rogers and Ollie Watkins keep scoring in pre-season, and Marlon's chipping in as well, which is great. But coupled with the fact Ramsey only scored once last season, Tielemans was the only player apart from Watkins and Rogers to get 10 goal contributions in the Premier League last season of players that are currently in the team. That needs to be raised. And Marlon looking really sharp in pre-season. 3 assists, 2 goals, so 5 contributions in the space of 4 matches. And I say 4 matches, maybe a couple of games he played an hour, but mostly it's just one half of football. So really encouraging there. Watkins has scored 4 and 4, fantastic. Rogers looking sharp, obviously injured at the start of the second half, but hopefully should be okay for New. Not since yesterday. Again, we'll speak to Emery literally in 1 week. He will probably start to take to his seat right now. So we'll get kind of the word then. But at the moment, it's he should be able to feature against Newcastle. But we don't know how these things kind of go over time as well. So there's caution, right? But hopefully okay.
He's out for a maximum of 2 or 3 weeks. I think everybody would snap your hand off that right now, in the fear of, but what if it's 3 months or something?
When he went down, I would have, but
exactly.
Yeah. The new signing, Evan Guessand and also Marlon, just combined, it feels like for £50 million, all of a sudden we've got 2 players there who can really cause damage, and increase our goal output, which for me was a big concern. So,
do you think that is Diaby's replacement in the aggregate? Those two players almost finally.
Possibly, but we made £50 million off Diaby as well, so it's a good point.
What I mean, yeah, we invested in that money.
Yeah, I remember, and I never kind of forget when Emery said after we sold Diaby, and he rarely says this sort of thing, but he said he wasn't really the player that we thought was going to fit like he did. Like, he essentially thought Diaby was going to fit better than what he did, which was interesting because I thought, well, we obviously paid quite a lot of money for Diaby, big marquee signing. We were chasing a few different players and settled on Diaby, who at the time, joins with lots of kind of excitement. A lot of other clubs were looking at him as well. But in the end, he didn't really fit. And I thought, firstly, it doesn't really bode well because, we don't want to make more of those, I wouldn't say mistakes, because I think he was going to get better in his second season, Diaby. But clearly Emery saw something that he didn't really like and didn't think he'd be able to coach into him. We've now signed very different players to Diaby. So, part of me is enthused by that, knowing that Emery was very clear, okay, that wasn't quite right. We've signed 2 more players since then in that sort of position. Surely, between them, we can work that position out now.
Yeah. King81 says, I hate the like a new signing for current squad players. It's just a cop out for little or no business being done. You wouldn't wash and polish a car and claim it was like a new vehicle, which, is right to an extent. I'm trying to think if I can extend the car analogy. Let's say you bought the car in January and barely drove it. When you come to drive it in the summer, it's still hardly got any miles on it. No?
Yeah, when we say like a new start, I don't mean it in any way, shape, or form about transfer business. I just mean Marlon didn't play that much.
He didn't play much,
season,
and now he will. So that's kind of like he wasn't here.
Forget like a new signing. He should have improved from where he was 6 months ago because he's had more time working with Emery. Tactically, Emery will hopefully trust him more, and he looks sharper and more confident. So that's what we meant by it.
It's a fair point though. Like, it is something that he's thrown out quite a lot, but it still kind of is. It's not excusing a lack of business. It's just he didn't feature much, and now we expect him to. So he will make more appearances than last season. Therefore, it's kind of like he wasn't really here last season. But the champion didn't play in Europe at all. Now he will.
Yeah, and we could have sold John Duran in June and scrambled to sell him then, but instead we did it in January. And we had to replace his output by signing Marlon, by signing Rashford, by signing Asensio. So I don't really think of summer and January windows as kind of separate. I think they kind of join into one, to be honest. Like, Guessand, the chap we've just signed now, maybe that's something we could have done in January. Wasn't right. Do it in the summer instead. So if you want your player, you'll wait for them. And with Marlon, we could have. In fact, we were interested in him in the summer before, weren't we? We had to wait to get him on the deal that suited us in January instead.
I'm just going to change the title of this episode after we finish. The Emery favouritism thing was about a question that was like, is he too stubborn to play Pau Torres when Mings is better and all that kind of stuff, which I think has some elements of validity to them, but it's not something we're going to discuss now because there's way more other things that I think are more interesting. One of those being Emi Buendia. Loads of questions about him, loads of comments about him. Jason, I'm really excited about Buendia. David, if either one of Bailey or Buendia could stick around and have a career best season, which would you rather? Chris, do you think Buendia will play a big part this season? And then there was a couple from Les about Grealish and Asensio, which kind of feeds into that 10 position. Has Asensio actually gone to Turkey yet, or is he still an option? And is Grealish a legitimate option? And if not, what would be the stumbling block? Wages, firstly, is the biggest thing for him. I don't see Grealish coming back. The Asensio one's weird because that seemed like it was all done and dusted for. Was it
Fenerbahce? They haven't managed to get over the line yet. So
that's odd, isn't it?
It's odd. I mean, at the time, they offered him a deal and he rejected it because he wanted a certain amount of money. But there was the kind of presumption that they'd be able to meet his demands. That clearly hasn't happened. So he's still available. I'm sure if Villa came after him and offered what he wanted, he'd join in a heartbeat.
Can we offer him what he wants?
Precisely. I think if we could, we would have already. But, as the window ticks down and his options become less as such, not that we're not an option for him, but but
I suppose if you're saying, right, he could hang around and get, let's say his wages for this, 150 grand. He can wait around and get that from a Turkish side or a Greek side or whatever, or he could drop those demands to 100 grand a week and play in the Premier League. Like, what do you want to do, mate?
Yeah, or just stay at PSG and waste another
all
season
that.
of your career and fizzle out. So
Yeah.
he has less power in negotiations as the window goes on.
Yeah. Bit of food chat from Beans81. Currently sat in a services, eating a Burger King, watching this podcast up the Villa. What have you had? Where are you going? That's what I want to know. Beans81, please do get in touch. Are you a Burger King man, John?
I've had a few Burger Kings, mainly
the chicken options, I reckon.
No.
Oh,
mainly at the airports.
Yeah.
I always order I don't know what it's called, something to do with cheese. I don't know, cheeseburger, obviously, but it's got a name. I don't like cheese though, so what I'll do is I'll order this cheeseburger and ask them to take out the cheese.
So God,
it must confuse them. But
every discussion we have about food, there's something in there that's just bleak.
What do you mean? I don't like cheese. You know what? A lot of people don't like cheese, and I find it quite rude that people apply cheese in. I don't know. Like ready meals and stuff. It should be like an additive. Like, here's a packet of cheese if you want to put it in there.
Yeah.
Like, even with like a Caesar salad, the Caesar salad that I had in God, no one cares about this, in Louisville, and I put it on the vlog, and then I realised, oh my God, it's got loads of cheese on it. So
you picked all that off.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
God. Julius, I've just had a white chocolate Magnum, the king of ice creams. What are your favourites? I would say a Magnum. A Magnum's a great choice. This is where John tells us he's never eaten an ice cream in his life.
No. You know what? I think Magnums are really boring.
Do you? I like the thick chocolate, though. Good thick chocolate on a Magnum.
I don't know, like, it's quality, isn't it? Like, Magnum is probably like top tier in terms of ice cream quality, but I just find it quite boring. Like, I wouldn't buy Magnum, to be honest.
Okay. It would suit you, I think, if it's quite boring with your usual picks. But
do you know what I mean? Though there's nothing to it. It's the same the whole way.
Yeah, okay. DJ, quickly before we get back to the football, I'm trying to see what John has on that centre shelf. His head is constantly blocking. My money's on an unused Easter egg. Is there anything in that one behind you, or is it blank?
Yeah. No, so that's me. That's me lifting the League Two trophy when I had an internship at Cheltenham Town for a year, which was nice. A really nice part of my career, the start of my career. And in there is Captain Phillips. That's, if you didn't know, the pilot that stops me mid-flight going to Berlin. Big fan of the podcast, and he comes out the cockpit and we had a little chat about Villa. So yeah, the most surreal kind of meet of my career so far. I don't think it'll be top, to be fair, but yeah, really nice.
I really hope it is topped. If anyone's out there in a really niche job or anything, spots John, please stop him so we have some podcast content. Finally, one more personal one before we get back to the football, I promise, and only for you, John, if he's okay with sharing. I finally smashed 100 kilograms on the bench press. What's John's PB?
I don't really do bench press, to be perfectly honest.
How you get them guns,
I've got a boring answer. Well, it's not my chest, is it?
True.
I tell you what, though, I was
a man who never goes to the gym.
I was doing the interview with John McGinn. I get the video afterwards, and I get quite a lot of stick from my partner for skipping leg day because I skip leg day. Yeah. And you got John McGinn, who's basically got legs like tree trunks, and I've just got these sticks. And I started laughing, like, what is this? But like, yeah, to be fair, like McGinn's legs are, I don't know if I presume you've watched that video.
Yeah. That's where his power comes from.
Jesus Christ. Well, yeah, clearly. And I saw the pictures of when he joined Villa 7 years ago this morning, because Villa put it out. And his legs didn't look that big, so like, goodness me, he's really bulked up from 7 years ago.
He'd only been 23 back then. Like, he was a youngster, really. Like, he's physically developed since then. So long time.
Wow, that's crazy. Joined 23.
Yeah. Okay, right, back to football then. King 81, when does Bailey leave? Surely the writing's on the wall now that Guessand is in. One of the previous questions asked about if you could keep one, Bailey or Buendia, and they'd be good. Which would you pick? Probably would be Buendia, to be honest.
I'd say Bailey, because if Bailey improves that season that he had a couple of years ago, it'd be...
I just think we're probably okay in his position now with Guessand, Marlon. And
do you, though? There's still a question mark for me about the versatility of that position specifically. I'm just a little bit concerned that we don't have enough width in the team.
I think the width is going to come from the fullbacks.
I know, but I think that's quite one-dimensional, to be perfectly honest. If if a team manages to pin Cash or Garcia or whoever back from right back position, you have no width then. I know you can put Marlon or Guessand outside or out wide, sorry, but they all want to do one thing, and I'm a bit, I don't know. It's not really a major issue, and clearly Villa have planned for it, so it's not. It's more I need to see what we're going to do for me to actually think it's an issue. It's a little bit of a concern, but I don't think it will be.
I just think now we've got Marlon, McGinn, and Guessand that will probably play on the right side, and we've got Rodgers who plays 10. So if I pick one to have a good season, I'd have Buendia in there as well.
Yeah.
Do you think Buendia will stay?
I think I'll put it this way: I think we need a 10 in the ilk of Essential or Buendia. Again, kind of different players, but we need that. I think we need something. I say that though, I still think Tielemans is suited for that role. And I know we've got player of the season in the double pivot, but I really like Anana and Kamara as a 2. And I know you can't rely on Anana too much, which brings Tielemans back, and then you're left with the same question as before. So I think put it this way, there's a space for Buendia in the team, but my point about it is equally, is it worth keeping Buendia like start last season, and he essentially just didn't play any football for half of the season and then went to Bayer Leverkusen? Is that something that you want to happen? Or would you rather just make your money on him now, and it'll probably be the highest price that you could get for him, because again, his contract's going to be going down. I just think I need to see Buendia impact Premier League games. So I'm not going to pass comment on him playing well in pre-season. I think we see this a lot, and it's easy to get carried away with Buendia because he is always physically.
And we always say pre-season's pointless, so why do we care that he's had a good pre-season?
Well, this is my point. That I'm not judging pre-season, to be perfectly honest. I think Buendia is always going to be a good trainer, physically capable of getting around a pitch. He's strong for his size. He's got low centre of gravity. I think he looks good in pre-season. What I would say,
to be honest, if he played against Newcastle next week, I think he'd be massively out of his depth.
This is my point. I need to see it. So I'm not going to judge whether right now, oh yeah, definitely keep him or definitely sell him. Give him the chance against Brentford, Newcastle or Palace, but no one in this chat will be saying, oh yeah, start Buendia. Or if we need a goal, who'd you bring on? McGinn, Marlon, whoever else on the bench, Anana, whoever. Would Buendia be one of the first players you bring on? I don't think so. So
I think it's more so that the players that are already on wouldn't come off.
Well, all that, yeah. So he's still at the bottom of the pecking order, but is that pecking order long enough that actually he's still useful? For example, in the Europa League, we're going to be playing quite a few teams who Buendia should be able to play well against, right? So in that league phase, I'm not underestimating it, but there will be, for example, Legia would be in pot 3. However, they did lose 4-1 last night to, I think, like Larnaca or something, so they might not even be in the Europa League, Legia. But the point I'm trying to make is that he can be useful for us next season, I think. But for how many games? Or is it just worth selling him now when his price is probably as high as it's going to be? Because we have to think like that. We can't just think, Bailey and Buendia, well, they're probably not worth that much anyway, so let's just keep him to kind of stockpile players, and then we depth won't be an issue. We can't do that. We do need to make money. UEFA have us where the cost of our squad that we're going to have to put forward needs to be a positive balance. There's going to have to be money that we're making. So I still think Buendia will probably go if, you ask me right now.
Yeah.
Whether I want that to happen or not, ask me on September the 1st when something's probably already happened.
Okay, I'll write that down to remember to ask you. Set up a reminder on my phone. Roy says, are you live? Yes, we are, Roy. Welcome to the chat. Johnny Hall says, I would sell both Bailey and Buendia. They're not good enough. Cash out now. Dendoncker, Barkley, Pau Torres and Ramsey. So that's a lot of fire sale there.
Is that cash, as in Matty Cash, or does he mean cash?
No, that would be Matty Cash as well, yeah.
Okay.
Dendoncker, yeah, absolutely. Villa will either, hopefully somebody comes in to save the day and takes him off our hands, or his contract will be terminated at a cost to the club, and that will be the end of him, and a complete waste of time and waste of space. Barkley probably will hang around. I did think he might end up going because of his unreliability, but again, if he plays and features a bit and does a job, fine. Pau Torres will start most games in the Premier League. He's one of Emery's favourites. Ramsey is one that we probably want to keep, but if an offer comes in of a good size, he's also one that you'd be okay to let go. Cash is an interesting one that there's going to be so much criticism for him as long as he's going to be at Villa. But again, another player that's got 2 years left on his deal, has played lots of minutes for Unai Emery and finishing in Europe 3 seasons in a row. I don't think that changes. Not right this minute anyway.
No, and again, I think we've mentioned, I think there's areas of the team which have to be strengthened for depth more than anything else. I think in right back, I think we have 2 players who...
Look, Cash and Garcia might be okay and good enough to play right back. Konsa gets injured and Bogart has to play, who I know is impressed as well. I think that's more pressing. If Villa can only sign one defender, it's a centre-back who could probably do a job at right back rather than 40 million on a right back who's better than Cash.
Yeah, and again, if Villa had like an open checkbook, they'd be looking at all different sorts of positions, and right back, I'm sure, would be one of them. But that isn't the case. And with that in mind, Villa have allotted their funds, at least so far, to forward positions which absolutely needed more depth in. We want to bring in another defender, whether that happens or not. Again, it's the transfer window. We'll have to wait and find out. And yeah, right back is a position that they'd like to strengthen. But as I've just mentioned there, it's not, or it never was a priority at the start of the summer as well. So that's why we haven't seen anyone come in there just yet.
Aaron asked earlier, actually, in the comments I set to one side, what's the chances of getting a right back in before the window? Haven't seen us linked with anyone. I don't think we will. I don't think we'll sign a right back.
So I went on mute because I was about to sneeze and I thought you were going to continue. Again, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not going to commit to we are or we're not, because not even Villa will know exactly where they're going to, or where they're going to improve in the team, or what bid's going to come for players. So a lot is still
something that might be opportunistic. Something might come up and go, actually, go on then. We'll have a bit of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. A couple more then before we wrap up, but you can sneeze now if you want, because these two I'll do together. Engine 9 says, Dan, can you ask John what he thinks of this formation? 3-4-3, Powell, Mings and Konsa as your centre-backs, Maatsen and... Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, he's written this in a way that doesn't really make sense to me. Powell, Mings, Konsa.
Is it in the numbers?
The number order. Bloody hell. Let me flash it up on screen, actually, so you can see what I'm working with. 3-4-3, Powell, Mings, Konsa, Maatsen, Yuri, Booba, Marlon, Rogers, Watkins, Guessand. Who's playing right back? The right wing back in that system?
Right wing back. It would have to be Marlon, I suppose.
Marlon?
No, it would have to be Marlon, wouldn't it? Which can't happen. No, unfortunately not.
If that's Cash, Powell, Mings, Konsa, Maatsen as your back 5, Kamara and Tielemans. Kamara and Tielemans as your 2, and then a 3 of Rogers, Watkins, Marlon / Guessand, possibly. I just don't see us playing 3 at the back.
No,
we've got few centre-back depth anyway.
Emery
playing 3 all the time is even more risky.
Emery almost always defends in that 2 banks of... Well, I say 2 banks of 4, it can change, but a 4-4-2 is how we like to defend usually. And I don't see that changing. So sometimes we can build up in the 3, can't we? When you see Kamara drop into the back 3 or a Beauregard or whoever it may be. And then we go from there, and that makes sense. But defending, we always defend as a flat 4. And then, of course, your 2 wider players, right midfield, left midfield, can then tuck into 5 if required too. So, yeah, I don't see any major differences next season to that.
No, me neither. Okay, we're going to wrap up there because your internet's gone on the wobble a little bit, and let's not risk it any further. Daz Red says, cheering on Ashley Young and Philogene tonight. I don't know who they're playing, but fair play to them. Give it a good go, lads. Exciting for the season.
Have you seen the Tifo they're going to put out?
I've seen that they're doing one, but I haven't seen what it is.
Yeah. I would put a relatively... No, I'm not going to put a number on it. Do you think that it will be related to Villa somehow? Seriously,
I wouldn't be surprised, but you'd like to think surely not.
I really hope it is. I really hope they've got something to do with Villa on it. It would be the funniest thing, honestly.
I think what was their tagline? Something like on the rise or something like that. I would suspect it would be something like that, like we're back or something like that. Back to the Championship.
It would be hilarious if it's something to do with Villa, but. Probably not. I just want to put it past them, that's all.
Might be a little reference, maybe more so than actually. Imagine it was just 4 letters, SOTC. SOTP, sorry.
Yes, it is.
So
But someone would be funny, yeah.
I'd love that, but it'd be the most incredibly tempting pot thing ever. So I hope for their sakes it's not that. Yeah, okay, good. Right, that's the end of this live episode of the Clark Blue podcast. We said we wanted to do a Q&A to end the week as opposed to start it. Some transfer bits and pieces around Guessand if you missed it early in the week. Next week will be full of preview content. So we've got the big fat season preview that we do every year. We're going to have some Premier League predictions as well. And then obviously we'll have the Newcastle specific stuff on Friday. And then the post-match will return on Saturday evening as well. One of the mailbag comments said, "Where's Matt? Not seen him for a while. Not been on social media. Hasn't been on the podcast. He's been on holiday. Lazy git. Hasn't been around for a few weeks." No, I'm kidding. He isn't lazy. He has been on holiday though. That's true. He's back. He'll be on the big fat season preview on Monday, and I believe, unless anything changes, he will be on the Newcastle post match as well. So 2 doses of Kendrick next week, possibly 3 actually. So for those that have missed the Kendrick analogies, they will be back, John. So back.
Yeah, we're so back. I'm just thinking, by the way, the preview, which will be in just over a week's time, that's going to be so weird to preview a game again. No, just to preview a game again. Like,
I don't think slightly differently, aren't we, this year with a preview, remember?
Yeah, but just in general, going back to Bodymore and having that whole thing again, something that I do, I don't know, 35, maybe 40 times a season and doing it for the first time, it just feels odd and weird. But
I'm looking forward to it. That the excitement for the season is definitely creeping up a little bit now. So join us for the ride. We'll be here with all our preview bits next week, and then
just quickly.
Every single
sorry,
game.
Do you play? Do you play fantasy football?
Nah, I used to. Stop last year. Not doing it this year either.
I stopped, I think, 2 years ago. But
it's so rewarding, isn't it? Not to be involved in it.
It is, yeah. No, genuinely,
freeing almost.
Half the reason why I stopped, because you can actually watch football like normally without hoping that Lewis Dunk doesn't keep a clean sheet or something.
Exactly. It'll be Everton v Wolves 1-0. Oh, who scored? Oh, it's not the one in my fantasy team. It's like, what do I care?
Too much. Yeah, too much.
I stopped. People asked us about, are we doing a fantasy league? But we didn't do one last season either, and we won't be doing one this year either because we don't play it. So it would feel weird to promote it.
Yeah.
Can I do my outro now? Are you done?
I think so, yeah. I'll stop you if I need to.
No, just don't bother, mate. Thanks, everyone, for watching along or listening to this episode of the Clark Blue podcast. But remember, it's sponsored by NordVPN, and all the information you need for Nord is in the description down below, including a tasty discount code. John, thanks for joining me. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in live and getting involved with the chat. And we'll see you again next week. Bye, everyone.